Greetings, today I'll be giving a rejuvenating paint job to this old troll here, possibly the ugliest troll miniature ever created. Now that's certainly not so in my opinion, as I've always had a liking to this miniature, but looking it over and seeing what else is available in the world of miniatures, this miniature is just bad. The sculpt isn't great, the details aren't there, the toe pads, whatever's going on with the feet is extremely unclear. The four-fingered hands, I just realized probably again that both hands do have 4 fingers. It's just that that hand that's coming out looks a bit awkward, or at least the finger sculpts look awkward on it. It's got a really thick palm on it. It's unclear exactly what's going on with the face. Is the mouth open? Is it closed? There's just big eye holes sort of there. It's just not a really well done miniature. The pose is also very one-dimensional, but there must be some reasons why I've always sort of liked this. And I think what they are is that, one, I just really like trolls. Trolls have always been amongst my favorite of monsters, but also this troll has that classic troll look. And you don't see that too much anymore, as there's different media that have influenced trolls out there, such as World of Warcraft and this and that, and just general aesthetics of artwork these days in creating creatures. Some of those imperfect troll conceptions seem to have been lost, but if anything's gonna be imperfect, I think trolls are amongst the perfect candidates, because that's also one of the reasons why I've always forgiven this miniature. If this were, say, an ogre or an orc and it had such silly looking feet and fingers, I wouldn't have forgiven it, because we know that the anatomy, the body is even more human-like, but trolls, they're a bit more uncanny. They're a bit more of that mix between darkness or nature and human in form. And so it can have awkward things such as 2 heads, while a troll in the same family may not have 2 heads or 1 eye or 1 missing arm or 3 arms. Like all those random things that you would maybe see more in demon illustrations or concepts, especially when you're considering Warhammer. But that's why this miniature never really bothered me, and I sort of actually liked it. And I was honestly looking forward to giving it a paint makeover, as you may have noticed in the polls that it did appear more than once over there in the polls in the community section over on YouTube. Nonetheless, thanks for voting for this guy, even though I think the mummy might have beaten him, so I might just tackle the mummy next, I'm not sure. But it was a pleasure finally tackling this guy. I enjoyed it, and I didn't spend too much time trying to dig out certain details. The only one I've really sort of thought about and focused on was the mouth. I always figured it had an open, round mouth, but then it looked awkward and it didn't have much form or shape to the lips and the mouth structure. So as I was working on it, it sort of made more sense that the mouth is actually closed. Now let's take a look at the original paint job that Dragon Strike had on this troll and see what that looked like. So taking a look at the original cards here from Dragon Strike, you can actually tell that is a completely different sculpt. And it's not like it's a slightly different sculpt, which was then modified a little bit for production, but rather a completely different sculpt that then another artist possibly used as a reference piece. I'm guessing maybe these were the original hand sculpts that were done, and then once production started, they sent these as references to China, and the sculptor made the sculpts that we have now, although those are more detailed than these, so it'd have to have been a pretty decent sculptor within their company there, or they just passed it on to a sculptor somewhere nationally, and since this was a D&D based game, that's probably what happened. And so as you can see, all of them are different sculpts. We have the bugbear here and gargoyle that I did recently. You can tell the wings are completely different. They're going back behind it instead of to the sides more. When I was a little kid and I started painting up these miniatures, I remember looking at these images and thinking to myself that these were probably larger sculpts so that they were easier for the artist to paint. But later in years I realized that a good artist, which were available at that time too, could paint the miniatures as the final production ones are from Dragon Strike. But these ones are definitely more bulky, more fattened up. The fire is like totally different, and the giant possibly the most different of all. So there you go. I guess it was kind of neat that the cards had slightly different sculpts representing the miniatures that were in the box. And I almost forgot to point out, but that troll sculpt on the card, I'd have to say is actually better, maybe less detailed, but better than the mass-produced miniature, especially around the head area. But nonetheless, I went with the closed mouth look this time around because it just made more sense with the anatomy I was seeing there and giving him that big chin, and it sort of made this troll look more maybe intelligent or wise. Not so predictably creepy, but maybe more so unpredictably dangerous, or maybe even friendly. But that's the thing with trolls, you just never know, and that's why I love them. What do you guys think? And how do you take this grand reveal of this Troll of Dragonstrike, the board game, a good old classic that came out soon after Hero Quest as a big competitor? Oh, and by the way, if you haven't seen, I also painted another miniature lately, or did a makeover on another miniature lately, and that was an interesting one as I was playing with the colors, and that's of the Bugbear. That's right, I believe they were 9-foot bugbears in the game of Dragonstrike, so do check that one out, and let me know how you feel with these classics being repainted.